Good afternoon, directors, and welcome to the inaugural meeting of the Comox Valley Water Committee for 2021. As this meeting gets underway, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Komox First Nation. My name is James Warren, and as the Corporate Legislative Officer, I will call this inaugural meeting to order. And thank you to everybody for attending today. Now, the first order of business at inaugural meetings is to conduct the election of the chair and vice chair for the year coming up. I do have a script, but I think most of you have probably heard it once or twice, and so I won't go through that process unless anybody has any questions on voting and the process for election of the chair and vice chair. Director Swift, I see your hand is up. However, I think maybe you want to nominate a position?
Yes.
All right, I will, sorry, I should just confirm that in the civic room here, we have Directors Grant, Director Grieve, and Director Hillian all in attendance. And then on the Zoom call, we have Director Swift, McCollum, Hamir, Arbor. Lisa, can you just scroll down there? Director Morin. No, so that is 1, 2, 1. So I think we're missing Director Cole Hamilton at this stage. And I will open up the floor now to nominations for the position of chair. So Director Swift.
I'd like to nominate Director Grant.
All right, thank you. And I see Director McCollum, your hand is also raised.
Yes, thanks. I'd like to nominate Director Morin.
And Director Morin is nominated. I'll call a second time for any nominations for position of chair. And I call a third and final time for nominations for position of chair. Seeing no further nominations, then I will just confirm with Director Morin. Do you allow your name to stand for chair of the Water Committee?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And Director Grant, do you allow your name to stand for the position of chair?
Yes.
Thank you. Then before I turn this over to Director Grant for a 3-minute campaign presentation, I will just advise the Water Committee members that to conduct the election, we will be undertaking an online poll. And with those who are in the room here, we'll also hand out ballots. And because this vote is a vote of the Water Committee, we do apply the weighted voting for the election of the chair. And so for those participating by the Doodle Poll, I'm going to ask that you enter your name into the selection, and that will help us make sure that the application of weighted votes is accurate. If there's any questions, please do ask before we get the voting underway. But before we get to that point, Director Grant, I'd like to turn the floor over to you for your campaign presentation.
Thank you. Well, three minutes. Wow. That's more than I put in for the whole campaign when I was running for Comox Council. So, no, that's not true.
You're down to 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
All right, here we go. So I guess for me, it would be really nice to see the water treatment project and be able to see that through as chair. I think a lot of work has been gone into that, and it would just be, I think, nice to see that. I think that I come with a lot of experience at this position. I've chaired the Water Committee, and I've also chaired the Water Commission in the past. And I did a bunch of chairing of sewer at the last meeting, not all of which was that easy. So I think I come with the experience. When I look, I also see that Cumberland has the chair of the regional district. Courtney has the chair of sewer. The regional district has the chair of sports. And I think it would be fair that Comox, being the second largest community, have the chair of this position. I also look at the voting distribution as we look into our agenda, and you see that Courtney has the dominant position. I think Comox, as the second largest community, would like to have a little larger voice in what that entails. And I think that if you were to put a Comox chair in, that we would feel comfortable with having that voice in that position. So that's my speech.
Thank you, Director Grant. And Director Morin, I'll turn the microphone over to you.
Great, thank you. I did prepare something that hopefully is about 3 minutes. So Water. There's nothing more sacred and more vital other than the air that we breathe. And arguably, there's nothing that impacts us more regionally than our water services. From our tributaries and creeks that flow into our watershed, to the human impact on the watershed, to the new state-of-the-art water treatment plant, to the pipes that deliver fresh water to our citizens now and into future development. It is truly in our best interest to work together for the benefit of all, and we must strive to be equitable and fair. So I agree with Director Grant on that point. There was a certain survey that circulated recently inviting feedback on our local governments. Some of you may be familiar with it. And one of the comments questioned my social services background and how that's relevant in local government. And I think particularly with water, it's extremely relevant. When I think of First Nations and Inuit communities in Canada that lack clean water and the infrastructure for water, and the impacts of COVID on our most vulnerable, even in our own community, trying to access clean water for necessary hygiene, that's a major public health concern. And the impacts of homelessness, poverty, addiction, and mental health on our water sources, because folks lack the basic needs and have literally nowhere to go. And I think, yes, my background and perspective is relevant. And I've also spent time in Malawi, Africa, where I watched women in particular spend hours and hours of every day just to access clean water and bring back to their communities. So water does impact the social fabric of all of our communities. And we're so fortunate to live somewhere where we have access to clean water and the infrastructure. So I think we need to balance those realities with the pragmatic tasks that we face in terms of financial considerations and other responsibilities of this committee. And I admit I have lots to learn. I'm still a rookie in the eyes of many, but I have been soaking up as much as I can, attending many symposiums around water and water conservation and the environment and watershed, et cetera. And I keep apprised of various viewpoints. And I've enjoyed following the construction of the water treatment plant and admire the passion our staff put into their work. Being part of local government, and especially this committee, gives me a whole new appreciation of the work of people like my grandpa, who worked for the city of Courtenay and helped install much of the infrastructure, including water pipes. I'm proud of our board and committee's commitment to working with KFN, as evidenced in the signing of the mutual benefit agreement in 2018. And I'll quote Chair Joliffe at the time, who said, "Water is a shared interest between Comox First Nation and the regional district. I would like to help lead this committee into the future, from expansion into the south, having municipalities working equitably with electoral areas, to watershed protection and conservation, and of course, furthering reconciliation from the lens of water stewardship and access." Thanks.
Thanks, Director Moore. So sorry, some feedback there. So I think Jake will be able to send around the Doodle Poll to those who are attending virtually. I will hand out ballots right now. And then when the submissions come in through the Doodle Poll, Jake and I will tabulate and report the results.
We haven't seen a poll yet, or is it just me?
No, they're just tabulating manually in the back room. Oh, okay, just 1 second, I'll check.
Director Arbor, if you haven't received a doodle poll, you can feel free to text me, James.
Okie dokie. I was able to answer it, James. I was stuck on the ice cream poll. I kept waiting for it to show.
So thanks for your patience, directors. At the close of the voting for chair, I'm pleased to announce Director Morin has been elected as chair of the Water Committee for 2021. And I will now open up the floor to nominations for the position of vice chair. Director Hillian.
I'll nominate Director Grant. Yeah, no, I'm going to decline that. I've got a lot of work that I can be doing, and vice chair, you do a lot of work, but you don't actually get to do a lot. So I will focus on other things.
Okay, thank you, Director Grant. And Director Arbor, I see your hand is raised.
Thank you. I don't see him online, but based on his long experience with both water and the regional growth strategy, I'd like to nominate Director Grieve if he's around.
Director Grieve is here in the civic room. I will call a second time for nominations for vice chair. And I will call a third and final time for nominations for vice chair. Seeing no further nominations, Director Grieve, do you allow your name to stand for vice chair?
Well, I will, as long as you let me read this 3-page speech I prepared. Just kidding. Thank you very much. It's an honor.
Thank you, Director Grieve. I'm pleased to announce you as acclaimed as Vice Chair for Water Committee for 2021. Thank you. And before I turn the presiding duties over to Director Morin, I would ask for a vote from a motion to destroy the ballots in the election.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor and anyone opposed, including those online? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. And Chair Morin, I will turn the mic over to you to undertake the rest of the meeting.
Great, thank you very much. I know that the KFN acknowledgement has already occurred, but I would like to reiterate it that we are on the meeting on the unceded traditional territories of Komox First Nation. So I think the first order of business, we don't have any delegations, is the management report. So if I could hand it over to staff, please.
Move receipt.
Move
Arbor.
receipt. Thank you.
Second.
And a seconder? Great. Who was second? It was competition there. Arbor moved and who seconded?
I was one of the seconders.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Director Cole Hamilton, thank you. And I'll hand it to staff to, or if there's any questions from any of the directors on the management report. None in the room, I'm assuming. So all in favor of receipt? Any opposed? So that's carried. Okay, so we're on to D, public input, the 2021-2025 financial plan. And staff is going to provide a summary of the public input received so far. So I will hand that over to staff. Thank you. Move receipt. Sorry, I keep forgetting that we're doing that first. Thanks. Is there a motion for receipt?
I'll move.
And second?
second.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. And just for any members of the public that may be watching the Water Committee, due to the COVID restrictions on meeting and the fact that we are conducting this and our other meetings through Zoom, we encourage the public to provide their comments, and our website is the area that one might receive information on our financial plan, but also submit any inquiries. Staff will then present to the Water Committee and Board any questions, comments, or feedback that we receive. At this time, there is none with respect to the Water Committee and the proposed budget.
Okay, so are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of receipt? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, moving right along on to reports. We have number 1, the 2021 Comox Valley Water Committee voting structure. And would someone like to move receipt?
Move it.
Second.
And great, thank you. And I'll hand this over to staff to discuss the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And staff have presented the report for the consideration of the Water Committee. It's an annual thing that we do. If there are any questions, Lisa Dennis is here to answer them.
Questions or comments?
Director Grieve has a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Director Grieve.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations, first of all. For those who are looking at the voting structure here and wondering how this all came about, good old Uncle Eddie's going to take you back in time. There's something called a Galt-Wilson report, where they hammered out that votes would be weighted according to the consumption. Now, I guess in the day that sounded like a pretty reasonable thing, but in the day of the 21st century, when we're trying to conserve water and give credit to those who actually do so, this is totally out of line. What we're looking at here is Courtney with 25,599 using approximately 186 cubes per resident. Komox with 14,828 people using about 149.88 per year. Now, the way it works out, per capita, that's about 22% more for a citizen of the city of Courtney than in Komox. Now, I realize there are businesses in Courtney, and there's doggy washes and car washes and whatever, but it works out to Komox, with a population of 72% of Courtney, is getting 43% vote. So when you look at it in those terms, it's really not a fair system. And I know I've brought this up every year for the last 14 years, but I do think at one point in time, we're going to have to reevaluate how we allocate the voting structure on this committee, because right now it is not fair, especially for the town of Comox, to get 43% of a vote. that Courtney gets for the same amount or for a much less usage of water. So I just want to bring that up once again, and hopefully one day we'll address this. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Grieve. Any other comments?
I had a comment as well. If I'm next, I can't see the board up there.
Yes, go ahead, Director Grant.
Yeah, so just further to what Director Greaves had to say, this is what I was alluding to. When you have one community that can absolutely dominate the entire board, Courtney can tell us what we're going to do and we get no say. And yet we pay a large portion into this. And so he says, hopefully one day, I would like to see that changed sooner. And the fact that you're going off of consumption is, I mean, that's so last year. You know, that should have been gone 15 years ago. You should be getting credit for saving water, not for using it. So I would ask the chair that at some point in time in this year that we re-look at this voting structure and get to a more fair position.
Thank you, Director Grant. And I believe I have Director Arbor up next, please.
Actually, Dr. Amir has her hand up, but I'll be next.
Okay, thank you. It's Director Hamir isn't showing up, I don't think. Thank you. Go ahead, Director Hamir.
No problem. Thank you, Chair, and congrats again too. I'm wondering, would be a question for staff. If you have seen other regional districts have a different makeup or a different voting scheme other than based on consumption, because again, first time, electee, I haven't seen what other areas do. At first glance, it makes sense to provide weighted votes based on the taxation that goes in, but I don't know if that reflects fully, what we're seeing right now. Do staff have staff done a scan of what other communities do?
I can answer the question this way, and that is it's really open for a regional district to determine how voting structure occurs for any of its committees and commissions for which it delegates its authority to. And you need look no further than our own regional district, in which in the case of sewer, it is one member, one vote. And some of your other committees are similar. There has been a fair bit of research and reflection on this matter over previous years and times, but it is something that is unique to this water committee in terms of this regional district and the way that it conducts its voting structure.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? I don't see anyone on my screen. Is there anyone in the room that has a comment?
Director Grieve.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Just for the record here, 72% of the population and 43% of the vote. So there is definitely a glaring discrepancy there. And I would like, if we could put that under advisement and maybe next year come up with a different model, something a little more equitable. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Grieve. If there's no other comments, I'll make a comment.
Chair, did Director Arbor still have a question?
Oh, yes, thank you. I don't see his hand up anymore, but maybe he gave up on me. Director Arbor?
Yeah, I'm in favor of a review as we are in other services. It's always good when there's a sense of fairness in how we manage our services. The 72% that Dr. Grieve is alluding to, was that the population outside of Courtney? And if that's the case, like for me, I only have 120 homes so far connected to the water, so I wouldn't count all my constituents as being vested in this service for sure. But when members have concerns, I think it's good to bring it forward. We saw with informal service reviews or governance studies that we can make good progress as a group and establish consensus. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Arbor. There's no other comments. I'll just make a comment. In my little preamble, I did mean what I said, that I think that that we do need to look at equity across all of our committees, and I think good points have been brought up today. So I'm hopeful that that we can come up with some ideas to explore this issue and perhaps make some changes if that's the will of the board or the committee. Thank you. There's no other comments. We'll take the vote. All those in favor of receipt? Any opposed? Great, thank you. That's carried. And we will move on to number 2, which is the Puntledge River water main leak repair.
Move receipt, Arbor.
Thank you. And a seconder?
Second.
Great, thank you, Director McCollum. And I'll turn this over to staff for the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Chris LaRose is here to provide this presentation and answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Russell. Good afternoon, everyone, through the chair. So this is just a brief update on a follow-up repair required for the Puntledge River water main crossing. So if you recall, 2 years ago, almost to the month, we were bringing forward the reality that a leak had occurred on this crossing. And then April 2019, we undertook a major repair that, given the timing and the early start of the dry season that year, warranted implementation of a stage 4 water restrictions. So part of that repair did include an installation of equipment on either side of the river to make it easier in the future to undertake a repair, and also to make it easy to monitor for the presence of leaks. So that if that monitoring that occurred last year and again early this year, that identified first a minor leak last year and then a larger one early this year. So last year, so the leak, just to put it in perspective, the leak in 2019 was, we were estimated at roughly 700 liters per minute. Last year, we measured a small leak at roughly 10 liters per minute. And then when we measured again in January, that had increased to 75. That relatively rapid increase, even though it's an order of magnitude lower than what it was in 2019, has us concerned. So we've chosen we'd like to proceed with a very fast repair. Fortunately, the installation of that additional equipment in 2019 does make this a much smaller task. And so we're proposing to, what we've got scheduled is a 3-part approach. So this week, we're working with a local contractor. We'll be working with a local contractor to install a access hatch. The week of March 1st, we'll undertake a follow-up acoustic leak detection of that section so that we can pinpoint the presence of the leaks before we go back in the week of March 15th with a diver to repair. So that first step, installation of the hatch, will make it even easier next time we need to get in there to do a repair. Obviously, the fact that we're yet again in there doing a repair this year, two years later, has us kind of thinking about the long-term prospects for this pipe. So included in the recommended amendment amount, we propose to include $250,000 in the recommended budget for this year, which should include sufficient money to undertake a study of that section to look at options for rehabilitation or replacement, depending on the results. So that's just a very brief update, but sorry, one last piece. I mentioned this repair is happening a month earlier than 2 years ago, well before we hope the start of the dry season. So we expect to implement a stage 3 water restrictions for that the week of the repair, March 15th. So we understand people aren't irrigating this time of year, but it will serve as a flag that the repair is happening, and hopefully encourage people to save water while we have that pipe out of commission. So happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. It's kind of coincidental that this is around the Easter time frame again. Are there any questions or comments? And I have someone's hand up, but for some reason it doesn't. Oh, it says, okay, Director Hamir, thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Chair. And thanks to Chris for the explanation of what's going on and what that 250,000 would be used for. And you've kind of answered my question. I was wondering, like, is it this specific section of the pipe that is leaking, or do we have leaks in the other portions of the pipe, but because they're not going through the water, it's not as bad? Or what are staff's thoughts on like what's happening right in that section?
Yeah, so that section is a steel pipe. So that was the material chosen for that crossing. On the east or the north side of the river, the downstream side of the river, it transitions to steel reinforced concrete pipe, similar to what we were just talking about on the sewer side, a very similar type of pipe to the one that we were assessing continued use of on the sewer side. So we've done actually the last 2 years in a row as part of the 2019 leak repair, and then again last year we ran a smart ball acoustic sensing device through the pipe. So we're confident that there aren't leaks in the concrete pipe. So I think what we're pretty confident is that it's the steel pipe, and it's corrosion. So it's unclear whether it's potentially related to the way that it was installed. It's possible that there was improper bedding around the pipe, and that the pipe was kind of dented, or the coating was compromised during installation. And what we're seeing here is what's falling out from that eventually. So that's what we hope to get a better sense of why it's happening. Is this likely to continue or possibly get worse? And that will inform our path forward here, whether it's continued patching of the pipe, rehabilitation some way through relining, or potentially replacement. But it's certainly concerning.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Anybody in the room?
Yeah, Director Hillian here. Thanks, Chair.
Great, go ahead, Director Hillian.
Thanks, and thanks for the report, Chris. I'm wondering if you can just remind us of what the impact will be on our business community in terms of the restrictions that will be imposed, and given the lessons we learned and the review process that we went through last time, what we can expect in that regard.
Sure. Yeah. So certainly there was some key lessons learned last year. I mean, first being that stage 4 restrictions are very impactful in businesses. So when we did get this the news in January, late January, early February, that a new leak, a large leak had developed, we were keen to have this repair done well before the start of the stop of the rains. So this will allow us to implement stage 3 rather than stage 4. And just given the time of year, we don't expect the stage 3 to have much, if any, impact for residents and businesses, given that it's very likely to still be raining. People are, we don't typically see an uptick in irrigation until well into April, if not beyond, depending on the time of year. So we expect the impacts to be minimal.
Okay, thanks. But there will be a public awareness around this, as there generally is with restrictions.
Absolutely, yeah. So Christiane and her team have a communications plan, including a variety of media for getting the word out with appropriate notice.
Thanks very much.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? I don't see any. I think it's great that some discussions happened about the impact of businesses last time, so that I don't think we anticipated that there would be impacts coming potentially this soon, but hopefully some of those businesses will be reassured, and especially with this being a stage 3 instead of a stage 4. Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, all in favor of receipt of this report? Any opposed? Great, that's carried. Okay, we're on to number 3, which is the 2021-2025 financial plan.
Move receipt.
Second.
Great, thank you. And we'll hand it over to staff to outline the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair and Directors, and Chris LaRose and Mike Hirschmiller will present this report for you and answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Russell, and through the chair. As Russell mentioned, Mike and I will be sharing this presentation. So I'll get started with the first several slides and then hand it over to Mike to provide a more detailed overview of the system and what we were up to last year and have ahead of us this year. So next slide, please, Lisa. So first of all, just a description of our water supply. So currently, we draw water out of the Komox Lake from the Puntledge River, originating in Komox Lake. We withdraw from the BC Hydro penstock, which is downstream of the diversion dam. We have 2 tie-ins off of the penstock that divert water into the Comox Valley water system, and water flows by gravity throughout most of the system, with the exception of a couple booster pump stations that are used periodically, depending on the current conditions. We have chlorination and ultraviolet treatment in a treatment building just next to the penstock. So moving forward, so next slide, please. The infrastructure currently underway will significantly change that snapshot. We'll still be drawing water that originates in the lake, except we'll be taking it directly out of the lake through a lake intake. A new lake intake that will be installed over the coming weeks as the project draws to a close, expected to be complete in June. And so that new intake will be so water will be drawn from the new intake by a raw water pump station on the edge of the lake, which will push water over to the new treatment plant, where it will be treated, filtered, and treated through UV and chlorination before being discharged into a clear well that will supply water throughout the entire Comox Valley water system, allowing us to decommission those booster stations. And so it'll run down a new treated water transmission main from that clear well and into the existing system at that existing treatment facility, which will become simply a location for the pipes to join and also for input from our backup pump station on the lower Puntledge, which will remain in the very unlikely event that in the future we need a backup source. Next slide, please. So the infrastructure, all of this infrastructure and the rest of the Comox Valley water system is operated by a pretty lean and talented crew of operators led by Mike. So his crew is also responsible for operating the 3 large water local service areas that are managed by the regional district, including the Comox Valley Water Local Service Area, which is feeds the surrounding area to the core area, as well as the Black Creek Oyster Bay system and Royston. So approximately 60% of the water crew's time is allocated to this function. So now I'll just pass you over to Mike to provide an overview of the distribution network and what we've been up to. Mike.
Thank you, Chris. We'll have to get another picture when COVID's over here. We've got another 4 operators that weren't made it into that one. So as you know, this is the Comox Valley, and this is the extent of our water system. Next slide, please. There's a bit of an animation here, so you can just click through the next few, Lisa, and it'll. We basically have our chlorination facility at the head. We run through a transmission system, which leads to 6 reservoirs, which total about 32 million liters of treated water in storage, and we serve the city of Courtenay, town of Comox, and the surrounding areas as well. Next slide, please. Thanks. So in the interest of time, I'll cover our accomplishments and 2021 goals quite quickly. As Chris mentioned, we did a condition assessment of the concrete cylinder pipe the transmission water main with smart ball, as well as a electromagnetic robot. And what that was able to do is it also helped us pinpoint the current leak under the river. We sent a robot in, got some great video footage, so we really do know exactly what we're going in to repair this time. The selection and purchase of a new CMMS, which is a computer maintenance management system called CityWorks, and it's the new way we're going to be doing our work orders, our assessment of inventory, and the way we truly track our preventative maintenance costs. We did ROV inspection and condition and structural assessment of all our water reservoirs and concrete and steel. ROV is a remote operated vehicle. I'll go into that a little more in the next slide. And then we did a full electrical PM and which preventative maintenance and infrared assessments of all our MCCs. And then the obvious continued construction of the Comox Valley Water Treatment Plant. We can go to the next slide, please. So this is just a little more in depth about the ROV. So this is kind of a problem that comes up when you have to inspect the internals of the reservoirs. You can see from the picture in the bottom left, that's East Courtney Reservoir up near the hospital. And it can be quite challenging to get in. There's no hatches on the bottom, so this is a top entry tank, and you have confined space as well as some pretty major rescue planning and contingencies that need to go in place. So to do internal inspections, we sent in this little remote operated vehicle, and it was able to get really clear video. And the bottom right picture is just an example of kind of what we look at. We can get right into the connections and to any kind of bracing and to flanges and really take a look at the condition. And the condition of the video is so clear that we're able to actually then submit the video to a structural engineer, and they're able to comment on the structural integrity of the tanks as well. And we did this for all 6 of our reservoirs in the Comox Valley system this year. Next slide, please. So this is just some various shots of the Comox Valley Water Treatment Plant. As you can see, the steel structures are going on. Those are on the top left photo, those are the flock tanks, which is where kind of the water gets the coagulant added to it, and the flock will be created in those. And then it moves kind of into the filtration tanks. And then we headed downstairs into the pipe gallery, which is in the bottom left, where it gets disinfected with UV chlorination, and then into the clear well. And when it comes out of the clear well, which is a 10 million liter concrete 2-celled reservoir, it will go down this pipeline on the right hand side of the slide. And that'll go down to the chlorination station, as Chris was mentioning. And you can see on the right-hand side of that photo, the green line is the penstock that we're now going to be kind of duplicating as we head down the penstock corridor. Next slide, please. So the 2021 work plan. The main thing is the water treatment plant, and moving into that, where the construction will be complete and the commissioning will have begun, and we'll be into the first year of our operation. We'll be operating in tune with ACON's operator, as well as we've already hired and have on staff now our senior operator for water treatment. We'll be looking to fill out that water treatment team as well in the next coming months. As well, the whole department is moving up there, so we have like a kind of a mini public works yard, and the entire water crew is moving up there. Implementing of the CityWorks computer maintenance management system. We're running a new fiber optic connection from our Ryan Road pump station up to East Courtney Reservoir. That's a pretty significant piece that is a fairly weak spot in our water system. 2 of the reservoirs, Crown Isle and Comox, feed all their information to East Courtney, and then it goes through a cabled line that has been hit a couple times during construction of the college and the swimming pool. So over the years that's been hit, that line's weaker. So we're putting in a new fiber optic, which will maintain our communications between stations. We are developing a concrete cylinder pipe repair kit. We are, with this new the new reservoir, we are adding about 15 psi to the water system. So we have some repair pieces, but we're putting together a complete kit with procedures and a real robust plan in place for that. as well as the completion of the bulk water standpipe and the repair that Chris was just discussing under the Puntledge River. Next slide. I think we're back on to Chris. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. It's a great update. I'll just provide a very quick overview of some of the highlights from the financial plan and then be available for questions. So from a revenue perspective, for this service, almost all of the revenue is derived from the sale of bulk water. So per the COVID renewal plan that was approved last summer, we will be reducing the bulk water rate to 80 cents for this year and next. So we'll be bringing forward a amendment to the bulk water rate bylaw to the next meeting on March 9th to affect that change and then set the bulk water rate for the subsequent couple of years. Next slide, please. So this just highlights the pre-approved kind of the schedule that was embedded in the previous plan, showing that we were planning to go to 85 cents for each of this year and next, dropping that down to 80, but still planning to jump up to where we were before at the 96 cents in 2023. Just wanted to flag that we are looking forward to working with municipal staff to update the water demand projections for the service. That was one of the factors that drove the bulk water rate up, was declining projections on how much water would be consumed. So we'd like to check back in on those and see if the growth that seems to be happening in the community here might also reflect in some increased demand projections, which could help us to soften that bulk water rate increase. So we'll be doing that this year before coming back to you next time around. Next slide, please. So on the personnel side, there's a large increase in personnel costs, so 30% budgeted for this year. And this is almost entirely due to the addition of the staff for the water treatment facility. So these have been in the previous two financial plans scheduled to come on this year. So I think they're budgeted fully for this year. However, we're hiring them in a staggered manner. Our new level 4 treatment operator, who will be in charge of that facility, is now on board. He's been with us for 2 weeks. We will hire the next position in late April, early May, and then the kind of level 3 treatment just before the plant comes online. So 2022 will be the first year where we see the full impact of these costs. Any savings that we see this year from the late hiring of those positions, will just translate likely to a higher reserve balance for the service. In addition to those, we're also cost sharing for a new in-house electrician that'll be shared between this function and sewer to help reduce our electrical contractor costs, which should see a net benefit to the service. Next slide. On the operating side, we are forecasting a 4% decrease. So this is in line with that. So that was the other side to the COVID renewal plan. So a drop down in the bulk water rate funded by a decrease in operating costs. So we extended the kind of the turnover rate on some of our vehicles, which has allowed us to reduce costs for these 2 years, and also cut some costs on the watershed protection plan side that will just be temporary for the duration of the 2-year kind of COVID renewal period. And just to note that we did add a new sub-function 302. So 300 is the parent function, 301 is the watershed protection, and a new sub-function 302 is where we'll be tracking all the costs related to management of the water treatment plant and the new source. We also included $200,000 in over the next 2 years within the operational budget to undertake a water master plan for the service. And this will be in close collaboration with the municipalities and will help really complement the asset management work that's been done. Asset management helps to tell us, based on condition and risk of the existing infrastructure, when an asset should be replaced, but it doesn't fill in the kind of the capacity piece. So taking into account the growth of the community, it'll complement asset management and tell us what size to replace a piece of infrastructure to accommodate growth in the community. So that's currently budgeted for 21 and 22. We may end up pushing that to 22 and 23, just given the extra load from bringing on the new treatment plant this year. Next slide, please. So on the capital reserve, so reserves are being funded to fund approximately 25% of the Comox Valley Water Treatment Project costs. By the end of the plan, we expect that all the short-term borrowing will have been converted to long-term, and we still expect reserves to be down to around the $6 million mark, although the final balance will depend on how much contingency is left after the project is complete. Next slide. On the capital side, it's still dominated by the construction of the treatment plant, which is on track for completion this summer. Just to note that per that report in early January, the timing of the treatment plant expenses are being adjusted in the recommended financial plan. Next slide. This one just summarizes the some of the other capital in the service for this year. Despite the delay of some of the vehicle replacements, we do still have one on the books. Annual capital equipment is for the purchase of a multi-purpose vehicle for the new water treatment plant site. Annual capital projects, the fiber project that Mike mentioned, the CCP repair kit, and an allowance. And I just wanted to make a note that we are, per the update on the leak repair, we all are also proposing to include $250,000 in the recommended budget for that repair of the Puntledge River crossing leak. So that's another motion, the second motion on this report. Next slide. So finally, just a very brief update on the Watershed Protection Plan. This year, we did initiate security patrols at the Coal Beach property. So this is working towards the management planning process for that site. Continued our education and outreach. We've progressed the Municipal Natural Asset Initiative project. We installed the second Alpine weather station for monitoring with climate and precipitation in the watershed, and completed the Comox Lake hydrodynamic model that we'll be bringing through the Water Committee at some point early this year. This year, coming up, we'll be hoping to complete the management plan for the Coal Beach property, continuing education and outreach for watershed protection and water conservation, working with the Watershed Advisory Group to review the Watershed Protection Plan risk assessment, which was forecast or scheduled in the original plan, and completing the Municipal Asset Initiative. Next slide. Just a couple of very brief slides of photos. This is a photo of the second high altitude weather station, along with a map showing the location. Together with the other station and our flow monitoring, will provide an excellent data set that will be monitoring over the years to help us better anticipate possible infrastructure or watershed management changes in the future to accommodate changes in climate. Next slide. This is just a photo showing the new station just shortly after, on the left, just shortly after it was installed. Those measurement poles show the depth of snow. And then on the right, the arrow is just showing the very tips poking through. So we've been tracking a very strong snowpack this year, which bodes well for the freshet and for our water snapshot this coming year. And finally, in summary, I know we're short on time. Just wanted to flag, so from a fiscal responsibility perspective, we took the opportunity to try and assist with the COVID renewal by temporarily dropping rates with a matching decrease in operational costs to ensure that our reserve contributions weren't negatively impacted. From a climate crisis environmental stewardship perspective, all rural connections are metered. Comox and Courtney are working towards all commercial and some of the residential connections to be metered. Water conservation is definitely a priority for all partners, and we're working hard on implementation of the Watershed Protection Plan. From a partnerships perspective, The Watershed Protection Plan implementation is guided by the Watershed Advisory Group, which is with strong representation from across our stakeholders. And the service itself is a strong collaboration. And in terms of Indigenous relations, we're working closely with the KFN to implement the commitments under the Mutual Benefit Agreement signed in 2018, including servicing down to the KFN development lands. So that's all for me. I know that doesn't leave much time for questions, but I'm here to answer any.
Great, thank you. As Chris mentioned, we only have a few minutes, so if don't want to shut people down, but if there are some pressing questions or comments. I don't see anybody online. Okay, and nobody's in the room.
Director McCollum has her hand up, Chair.
Oh, thank you. I don't know how I'm missing that. Go ahead, Director McCollum. And we do have some recommendations as well after receipt. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I'll be quick, seeing as no one else put their hand up. I just wasn't clear about, sorry, and thanks for the presentation. It was thorough, and I actually hesitated in asking a question because you covered a lot here. But the personnel cost increase of 30%, like this is a transition year. So and then you mentioned that, any late hirings will be carried over in reserves. Is the 30% the full brunt of the increase in staffing demands with the water treatment plant, or is it greater than that if we were to compare 2019 with, say, 2020 with 2022?
Yeah, sorry, it should have been clear. So that 30% is actually, it does also include the addition of the shared electrical position and the regular QP increases. So the increase attributable to the water treatment plant is closer to 22%. And yes, that is regardless of what actual costs are incurred this year because of the timing of hiring, that 22% is reflective of the incremental personnel cost for the treatment plant.
Okay, great. Thanks for the clarification.
Great, thank you. I don't see anybody online. Okay, so there is we'll vote on receipt first, please, and then the recommendation. All in favor of receipt? Nobody opposed? Okay, that's carried, and we have a
Move recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion on the recommendation, which is to approve the financial plan for the water services? Doesn't appear as though there are any questions or comments. All in favor of the recommendation? Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you. That's carried.
Move termination.
We have a seconder.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. No one opposed? Okay, thank you so much.